You know, I get a lot of requests all the time. People ask me, when's the next countdown? Hey, can you look at this? When is the next rank coming out? What are you going to commentate on next? Are you going to review this? All the time, though, for nearly a year now, there has been one thing that a lot of people have requested me to do, and to this date is probably my most requested video right now. And that is to do a video about Clarence. Now, judging from the comments where, people request me shit, there's a lot of people that, like, can you do Clarence? And they seem to like it. And then there's other people that are telling me, rant on Clarence. I hate this show. So it seems that my audience is split on it. I'm just going to give you my 2 cents on it and, what the show is about and what I think of it. Now, let me first address one thing before I get into the show, and that is with the show's creator, Skylar Page. Now, I know the Skylar Page controversy was like a while ago, though. If I don't bring it up, I have the feeling that people are going to ask me, why didn't you talk about the Skylar Page thing? Oh, okay. Let me just say one thing about that. I was shocked when I first heard of that. I was like, that happened? And it was kind of hard for me to swallow. Though, quite frankly, it didn't affect my perception of the show. Why should something terrible and just disgusting that the show's creator does affect the show in any way if I enjoy the show? I do think it was right that he was asked to leave from the show, because just having a sex offender slapped on a show is just, I mean, it still says created by Skylar Page, who, by the way, is, like Rebecca Sugar of Steven Universe, is an old Adventure Time veteran. Why should the show have to suffer because of something the creator did? I don't think that's right to demonize a show because of something outside of the show that's, well, out of the show's control. Now, the show basically revolves around this little kid whose name is Clarence. He's a pretty likable kid. I mean, he acts like, kind of like a real human kid in the real world. Now, I've heard a lot of people kind of compare the show to Ed, Edd, and Eddy, and, three friends, his other friends are Jeff and Sumo. Jeff kind of reminds me of Double D. He's kind of like the smart one, and not really as enthusiastic about some of the stuff that Clarence and Sumo do. Though with Sumo and Clarence, I guess either one of them could pass off as Ed, though none of them are really Eddie. One thing I really like about this show is that it's very down to earth. Now, that might sound like a weird thing, but hear me out. All of Cartoon Network shows, up until the release of this show for the most part, were abnormal, magical, supernatural. Even Gumball, which is probably out of those shows before Clarence came out the most down to earth, had its own quirks, like different animations and also how the characters interact, like balloons in school and T-Rexes and a bunch of other shit. This one is very down to earth, and you know what? It's quite refreshing, because, well, regular show and Adventure Time are great, though. You know what? Sometimes I want something that's a little more like the real world, but not too much, because, let's face it, real life's boring. And the show basically focuses around kind of like little misadventures that Clarence does, like going to something that looks like the play place at McDonald's, which was funny. That was actually the first episode I watched, because when I first saw trailers for the show, I was like, eh. Then I saw that episode on Cartoon Network's YouTube page. They actually had the full thing uploaded. I was surprised at how many times I was laughing. And there were some references, like there was a Star Wars reference, and it didn't feel forced, and it was pretty fucking hilarious. Unlike a certain other show that likes to shove references into people's faces, but that's something else I've already done. In terms of the other characters, Jeff, I've had friends that have been like Jeff, where they're kind of wimpy, I guess is the best term to use. And Sumo is, of course, kind of the weird one. Like, hey, Clarence, you want some of my blood burger? There are other characters, like, there's Clarence's mom, who is single, though there's her boyfriend, Chad, who I always thought looked like Monkey and Homer Simpson. His mom is, very caring for her little Clarence. Clarence himself is a very likable little kid. I kind of see myself in Clarence. Pretty adventurous, wants to do insane things like putting bees in a piñata. It was kind of funny. Chad is apparently a veteran, which, alright though, he's kind of dumb as a rock. What are you gonna do? There are, of course, other characters in this, like the bully in this show, Belson, who I swear reminds me of Barnacle Boy from SpongeBob. Or would this be Barnacle Man in this case, since, well, he's not a good guy. Belson is pretty much a bully who always bullies Clarence, Jeff, and Sumo, and hey, he even has his own friends, Nathan, Dustin, and Percy, who admittedly don't really have that much personality. They're just, well, around Belson. Probably because Belson took all the personality, because he's quite expressive, he's always trying to hatch some sort of plan to foil Clarence's plans, and, they don't really work, and they're not, like, tedious and boring. It's engaging, because he's a kid. This seems like crap that kids would probably come up with. What are my final thoughts on the show? I like it. I like it a lot. Humor is great. I always get a kick out of this show. I do like the characters. There's not one that's unlikable. Heck, even Belson isn't an unlikable douchebag. And, quite frankly, it's nice to see, a Cartoon Network show nowadays that's pretty down to earth, and I guess is a bit of a gamble on Cartoon Network's part since, well, they kind of had a little more supernatural shows up until that point. So it's nice that Cartoon Network's adding a little more variety, and hell, they're bringing back action cartoons with Transformers RID, so, I'm curious to see what Cartoon Network has in the future. I can see why some people wouldn't like it. I mean, I guess it could be annoying to some, though, for me, I really like this. So, yeah, that is my review on Clarence. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a great day.
Let it go, can't hold it back anymore, let it go.